Ladies and gentlemen, I declare this meeting open at 5:30 p.m. I welcome councillors, management and members of the public attending tonight's meeting, both in person and virtually. We are meeting on Wurundjeri Wurrung country and I respectfully acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we govern, the Wurundjeri Wurrung and the Bunurong Boonwurrung people of the Kulin, and pay respect to their elders past and present. This meeting is being streamed live and the recording will be published on Council's website by close of business tomorrow. The unconfirmed minutes of this meeting will also be available from the City of Melbourne's website as soon as practicable. I request that all mobile phones be turned off or to silent for the duration of the meeting. An apology has been received from the Lord Mayor, who hopes to be with us shortly, and Councillor Ball, I anticipate, will be with us shortly as well. That takes us to agenda item 2, disclosure of conflicts of interest. If any councillor has either a general or material conflict of interest as defined in the Local Government Act 2020 in relation to a matter to be considered by council, please disclose the type and nature of your interest prior to consideration of the item. Agenda item 3, confirmation of minutes of the previous meeting. I call on a councillor to move a motion adopting the open minutes of council meeting number 19 held on Tuesday, the 30th of June 2026. Councillor Dr Owen Guest and seconded by Councillor Raphael Camillo. I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour, could you please raise your hands? That is passed unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Moving to agenda item 4, matters arising from the minutes of the previous meeting. Are there any matters arising from the minutes of the previous open meeting? No. Correspondence and submissions. The following submissions have been received in accordance with Council's governance rules. In relation to agenda item 6.1, referred documents from Audit and Risk Committee 8 May 2026, an item of correspondence has been received from Chris Thrum. In relation to agenda item 6.2, post-travel report, Councillor Camillo, various destinations, an item of correspondence has been received from Carl Hessian. Status of confidential items. Does any councillor wish to discuss the status of a confidential item listed in the public agenda?
No, excuse me.
You want to raise a question about the status of a confidential item?
I'll just register my general sort of disappointment that these items are in confidential.
Okay, so no councillor wishes to raise a question about the status of a confidential item. That takes us to agenda item 5, reports from committee. There are no reports from committee. Agenda item 6, reports from management. There are 2 reports from management. Agenda item 6.1, referred documents from Audit and Risk Committee 8 May 2026. Would councillors like a presentation on this item? No. I call on a councillor to, I'm going to ask for a motion to be put on the screen. I call on a councillor to move the motion. Councillor Dr Owen Guest, and I'm looking for a seconder. Councillor Griffiths. Councillor Dr Owen Guest, over to you.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor Rashina. As you can see in the motion, this is to resolve and to receive the unconfirmed minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee, which was held on the 8th of May this year. The contents of those unconfirmed minutes do remain in confidential, but I think I can say this much, that some items have reached the public domain, which does include the Queen Victoria Markets review into its governance. In due course, I hope we'll be able to share more, because in doing so, I think public awareness will lead to greater trust. With that, I would like to propose this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Guest. Over to you, Councillor Griffiths.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. I also want to support the motion that's before us to receive these minutes, and in doing so, as ever, thank officers and our independent members for the very large amount of work that they put into preparing for these meetings. Not just days, but weeks of work go into that. And so acknowledge the work from both our officers and independent members, acknowledging as well Councillor Leilu and Councillor Dr Guest as the other members of the councillor team that attend these meetings. And again, knowing that councillors read over these minutes with a fine-tooth comb, but encourage everybody to do so. As I've said in other meetings of this council, I find that the Audit and Risk Committee is an invaluable opportunity to learn how the council functions, and this document before us tonight lays bare a number of issues, and even just referring to the section around risk management at Area 8, where we go through a number of outcomes and actions and the need for continued uplift in our risk maturity and reporting clarity, and a number of items that are listed there, some things that Audit and Risk Committee is really drawing our attention to as a council, and I think it's important that as councillors we take note of those things, so would really encourage everyone to read carefully the minutes. Having said that, I am happy to second the motion.
Thank you very much, Councillor Griffiths. Are there any other speakers to the motion? No, in that case I put it to the vote. Could all those in favour please raise your hands? That has passed unanimously. That takes us to agenda item 6.2, post-travel report, Councillor Camillo, various destinations. Would councillors like a presentation? No? I'm going to ask for a motion to be put on the screen. Thank you. I will move that motion and I'm looking for a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Louis. I will now speak to the motion. Can I begin by thanking Councillor Camillo, who has gone above and beyond in his councillor duties, making the decision to do work on behalf of the City of Melbourne while on a privately funded overseas holiday. Some councillors leave this place for a bit of R&R, but Councillor Camillo certainly is always focused on the City of Melbourne and has been incredibly busy. You've been to New York, Milan, of course, our great sister city, Sao Paulo, Campinas, London and Zurich. And I encourage all of those following along with tonight's proceedings to have a look at this report. There are some very interesting insights that I know you have gained as a result of the meetings you have had in those cities, many of which are clearly relevant to your portfolio interests like waste, cleaning, city safety, but also what I know is a real passion of yours, which is making sure that Melbourne's economy grows and thrives. And of course, international engagement is a very large part of ensuring that Melbourne continues to attract business, attract investment. So with great interest, we've read about your meetings, Councillor Camillo, and we look forward to some of those insights and learnings being put into place in this city. And we thank you for going above and beyond as a councillor in continuing to advocate and engage on behalf of the City of Melbourne. Over to you, Councillor Louis.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Camillo. The seconder hasn't spoken to yet. Councillor Louis.
Thank you very much, Deputy Lord Mayor. Can I also echo your comments and thank Councillor Camillo for going well beyond his duties by doing all these engagements on his privately funded travel overseas to all those fantastic cities that you've just gone through. But most importantly, the topics and the people that he was meeting with, such as the New York Police Department in regards to the CCTV cameras, similar to not quite as large as New York's, but to ideally replicating some of the functions, some of the AI functions that you've learnt during your trip into the City of Melbourne's control rooms, the great waste initiatives that you undertook the meetings with in Zurich and in Milan, but most importantly, you've also engaged with our state governments through the chief representatives, Tim Dillon in London and Brett Stevens in LA, or is in New York now?
New York.
He's in New York now.
New York,
They've moved offices. Yeah. So two very, very fine representatives for the state government, long-term promoters for not only Victoria, but I think Brett I know better. I think he's certainly a very, very strong advocate for working together, promoting Melbourne and Victoria together. So I thank you again for the time you spent on your travels doing the work of the City of Melbourne.
Thank you, Councillor Louis. Are there any other speakers to the motion? Councillor Camillo.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Kevin Louis, for the nice words. I just want to give a brief explanation or brief overall comments about this trip. I'm pleased to present this report, which outlines a series of engagements undertook while I was in a privately funded travel. I need to remember the public about that, and that is a self-funded trip. So as councillors, one of our responsibilities is to continually look beyond our own city and learn from others. Every city faces similar challenges, keeping communities safe, maintaining clean and welcome public space, supporting economic growth and ensuring our cities remain a very attractive place to live, work, and visit. The purpose of these meetings was to understand how leading international cities are responding to those challenges and to identify ideas that may be relevant to Melbourne. Across 6 cities, I met with mayors, councillors, senior public servants, police, planners, economic development agents, and government representatives. The teams were very consistent with my portfolio responsibilities and council plan priorities: city safety, city amenities, sustainability, economic development, and a strengthening of international partnerships. In New York and São Paulo, I was able to see some of the world's most advanced integrated public safety and intelligence systems. It was particularly valuable to understand how technology, surveillance, emergency coordination, and urban planning can work together to improve community safety while support effective operational decisions making. Especially with the AI and the hubs that they have, especially in São Paulo, they have a project called Smart Sampa that just in 1 year, they managed just with the new use of cameras to apprehend 2006 people that was serious criminals without use the force or one bullet. In Milan and Zurich, the focus shifts to city cleanliness, waste management, and environment sustainability. As the portfolio lead for safety and cleaning, these discussions were very especially valuable. I was able to share Melbourne's own experience, including our graffiti report initiatives, while learning about innovative approaches, recycling, because Milan is one of the best cities in Europe for recycling. They recycle 75% in a city that's 2,000 years old. So we have a lot to learning there. But in terms of graffiti, we're doing way better, and they investigating now our system of report. In São Paulo and Campinas and London, Campinas where I'm from, discussions focus on revitalizing the city centers and retrofit, attracting investment, support tourism, and planning for future growth. There were also valuable conversations about transport, infrastructure funding, housing renewal, and creating vibrant city centers that continue to attract residents, visitors, and business. In London, I was pretty impressed the discussions when you talk about the mandate to work from home. They were a little bit shocked because at the moment London is growing more than any other city, but they were pretty impressed that perhaps the state government in here is going to that way. The other thing was the economic development and economic contributions for developers. In London, they even discussion for developers to building train stations to take to other areas. So that was very interesting. And more importantly, this was simply about observing best practice. It was also about strengthening relationship Melbourne enjoys as a strong international reputation. And these meetings reinforce opportunities for future collaborations, as we already sister city with Milan, for example. Trade, education, culture, sustainability. One initiative that particularly resonated with me was Zurich. They have a program called Trash Heroes. A program, it demonstrates how civic pride and community ownership complement the work of local government, and is certainly an idea worth exploring. And I'm already bringing that to my portfolio. So the report recommends that these insights now be shared with management and relevant portfolios. Thank you so much, Chair. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Camillo, for that very thorough summary of your travels. Would any other councillors like to speak to this motion? No? In that case, I put it to the vote. Could all those in favour please raise your hand? That has passed unanimously. And we now have the Lord Mayor in the chamber, so I am going to ask him to resume the role of Chair.
Thank you kindly, Deputy Lord Mayor, and apologies, councillors, for running a few minutes late for this evening's meeting. I see that you are making good progress with tonight's business, having just voted and concluded agenda item 6.2. So that would therefore bring us to our next item of business, which would be the closure of the open meeting. I apologise, this is general business. This concludes reports from management. We're on to general business. There are no items of general business. We move on to agenda item 8. Is there any items of urgent business? I don't believe there is. So therefore we move on to agenda item 9, closure of the open meeting. So I do call on a councillor to move a motion, which I am looking to see on the screen. There it is. Thank you, Councillor Rouse. Councillor Camillo seconding. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That procedural motion is carried. We will now conclude our open meeting for this evening. I wish to thank members of the public for their interest and attendance and declare the open meeting closed to the public at 5:45 p.m.